Testify. Can you send the grandson up to the dome? Can you send the grandson up to the dome? You're still listening. We gather to pay covet Akron with beloved person, beloved Rebbetzin, most unique of individuals. Before we start with the faith, we'll just say Eshet Chai. Eshet Chai Miginisa, Verabok Mipninim Yisra, Batafa Leif Allah Shalom Lo Yaksar, Malat Tov Lo Ra Kol Yemei Hayeha, Dar Tzemer Upishtim Batas Befekas Kapeha. I saw Kaniyot to Kermi Merfak Tavilakwa, that Hakan Yo Laila, that can terribly be self, Pokan Arosela, some of us are debating of Hayim and Kapel, not the Karem, Kakrabi Osma Snail at Hame, Roseha, to our Maki Tov Sakra, Loy Beva Laila Mera, Yodea to go back in short with Kapel, Tom Kupole, Kappa Parsi Wani, Yodea to follow young, though the relevant some Shalek, Bo Besala Hushamim. Marvadima Salah Stage Yargamata Busha. No Dova Sharim Allah is Shiptoim Ziknayorets. Sadina Sabat in Korma Hakorna Snala Knani. Oz the Hadar Busha, but it's Hakti Makaron. He a Pascal Kakmak Sorat Skater Al Shona. So Biali Post Pesab left Matsus Lots of Hail. Kamupaneva Yashua Bala by Halala. Rabos Panota Shpayil, Yakalis Alkulana. Sheker Aktain, the Hevel Hayopi, Isha Yirak Adonai Sis Halal, Tnula mikri yodeha v'halahua v'asharim ma'aseha. We begin with the Hesped by Rosh Hashiva Rav Yaakov.
After Levaya, a person represents one of the last pillars of the generation of giants who laid the foundations and columns for the Torah community of Greater Washington, as we see it today, blossoming extraordinary and kiyum mitzvahs in the Torah, every other area of Jewish life. There were people strong, tall, who laid those foundations and made sure that they were straight, that they were true to Torah, and whatever we have is built on the back of those people. Wherever it's in Klavan, Allah Shalom was one of those essential pillars. Chazal say that when Moshe Rabbeinu asked for leadership, for the next generation of leadership, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave Ish Asher Ruach Bay, translated as a person, a man of spirit. Rashi adds from Chazal, Sheyodea lalechet kineged ruach shekol echad meh. The word kineged at first reading means towards. He knows and understands how to teach each person, how to greet each person, and so on. The word kineged also means, and maybe its primary definition is, in opposition to, facing off. Leadership includes teaching, but it also includes an extraordinary amount of being in contact with people who may be diametrically opposed in the direction that you're facing, to the direction that you're facing. A leader can bend. A leader can engage in confrontation. And neither of the two are the right course. There's Yodea lalechet kineged kol echad ve'echad. I can greet someone who is in a diametrically opposed direction in order to embrace and slowly turn him to the right direction. It means that I stand strong where I am and yet reach out to the other and bring him to where it's right. The Isha Sheruach Bay that was needed for Klal Yisrael was someone that knew how to go kineged kol echad ve'echad, kineged ruach echad, how to face off and bring round the other person. In this relatively short kufa, we were fortunate to become well acquainted with Klavan Shalom. Of all the things, we were struck most by her ability to engage with such a wide range of people from so many different places, not only geographical, to be able to grasp the person, understand the person, not lose herself one iota, but embrace and welcome. Where does it come from? The Gemara says that of all of the differences between the first temple and the second temple, there was a marked difference in the fire that burned on the Mizbeach. In the first temple, it was shaped like a lion crouching. It was able to consume logs, even if they were soaked. And it gave off no smoke. In the second temple, it cowered like a dog. It doesn't say the rest, but it does seem that it was lacking in those other properties as well. And I once heard, Rav Kreiswitz kind of thought, that these properties go together. When someone stands like a lion, assured of one's own strength, and confident with one's own stance, there does not have to be any acrimony. No smoke, no soot, and it's in the end able to consume even that which seems to be immune to the fire. But when you stand cowering like a dog, you're not sure of yourself. Then what you do is you bark, you snarl. You don't have the comfort with yourself and your beliefs to amicably engage the other person. And you are highly ineffective unless the other person is very willing to receive. I think that the Rebbe Sallallahu Shalom had an extraordinary sense of inner strength. What she believed, what she felt, what she knew was firm in her mind. Firm enough that she did not need to be acrimonious. She did not need to be angry, bitter. She could be calm, assured of herself, open, and engage and embrace, and eventually people will win over. Maybe going back to the first point, the two explanations of Ish Asher Ruach Hod, a person who has a spirit, inner spirit, also knows how to go kineged kolekach. It's a measure of your own spirit and your own strength of spirit that you're able to face off the other who is receiving opposition. And that's why one meaning is ensconced in the other meaning. If there's a ruach hoi, if the person is full of spirit, then he can go kineged kalecha be'echa without emanating smoke, bitterness, acrimony, and in the end, you win over the other person to yourself. The community, as we know it, 60 years ago was worlds apart. And people had really no idea, no beginning of understanding of what it's about. And it took the type of strong inner conviction and the calm and pleasantness that comes with it to engage people, to slowly help them understand what's right, to bring the next generation to Torah and create the type of Torah community that we're so proud of. Her ability to reach so many different people. We witnessed ourselves. There was a young man from Eretz Yisrael who came to be with us. There were many, many medical reasons he needed to be in the States. And he also needed counseling, guidance friendship, much more. Our hands fell short of it. And the Rebbitzin took him in, would sit with him for hours, teaching, talking, counseling. I tried to understand how is she able to reach out to someone from such a far place, and again, I don't mean just geography, and become a mentor, forge a deep and important friendship for that person. That was her strength. The taller you are, the further your reaches. Her strength and her dignity. Ois v'hada levusha, the Chayil that we read about, is dressed with strength and dignity. And very possibly, like we've said, one is a product of the other. When you're confident with your inner strength, it radiates as dignity to the world around. Oyes v'hada levusha, the Pasuk says. The Chayil is dressed with strength and dignity. Atisrak le'yonachra. And she was at ease with the last day. We were struck always by the Rebbe's attitude towards this day. After the Rav was nifta, it obviously was on her mind. And her attitude was, every day of life is a gift and should be lived to the fullest. And when our Shrofa decides not, it's not. There was no cringing, there was no apprehension, there was the solid understanding that the life is a gift of God and afterlife is a gift of God. It takes an extraordinary amount of real emunah, not just articulated. It takes a deep down feeling what life is. She had an extraordinary simchas achayim because she understood that every moment of life is to be used to reach out to people, to make people's life happy, to bring a simchas achayim to other people. She would sit in the house and just scream at people coming as if she was a Rebbe giving brachas. And she was. She gave one of the biggest brachas you can give, that simchas achayim. Coming to her and seeing her and engaging with her filled you with a very positive attitude towards life. Her ptira was shocking, but she had a gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave her every minute of life to be used to its fullest. Almost to the last day, she was full of life, giving life, full of energy. Always no problem with Russia. She was filled with inner strength, radiated as dignity. And she greeted the ultimate day with that same strength and that same dignity. May the schus of these founding fathers, our community, our communities, may the schus of their strength give us the strength to know what's right, to stand firm in our convictions, so firm that we need not be acrimonious, we need not to be bitter, we need not to be anger, we need not to fight. We need to radiate that emes, an emes that's clear to us, radiates outwards. And even the person that we greet, who's coming in similar position, a person as Ruach Boy knows how to go kineged ruach al-echad. And in the end, the fire that's as firm as a lion, amidst no smoke and ashes. And in the end, may the schus of your tremendous work, your husband's tremendous work, the other great Rabbanim, whose lives were dedicated to laying those foundations, may the schus hope that we may continue along those tremendous foundations. And together, the Yom Achron, the Achron Sayomim, when the leaderships getting together, will have a robust Torah community built on those yesodos that you have laid so. Use it from them.
Schreiben über der Schlichte.
Novi tells us that Laura is known as Ashes Lapidus. The part would explain that she was the wife of a great man, and it also means Ashes Lapidus that she had her own strengths as well. Zirza Maisa Kalapit Ish, in Parshman said. She was quick, like in her actions, like a torch of fire. And Reverend Klavan was both a Rebbitzin and a Mrs. She was a supportive role to her husband, to her children, to the community. In fact, it seems to me that, as Rashiva mentioned, the Klavan family, I believe, is 80 years part of the framework of the Torah community around Washington and its area, starting with her sainted father-in-law and her husband. And now, I believe that is the end of someone from the family living in the environment of the relation, the impression that she made, her husband made, is permanent, as part of the fabric of this wonderful community. Chazal tell us the shosh adam when the person leaves this world. Because Baruch Chaim L'Malkei Asheretz, Hashem says to the Malachim, Ma Brias Chaim B'Salah. What do people say about this person? Kosher by you. This person was a kosher, a Shemayim, and Yad Mitaso Parechas Ba'avir. I believe that anyone that thinks about Reverend Klavan can say she had a smile on her face that radiated her personality. She was real. She was honest. She was blunt. And used it to further the causes of Yiddishkeit. By being such a real person, as Rashir mentioned, who can connect to so many people, she was able to use her personality both as a Rebbitzin, to support her husband, have an open house, and how many people went through that home, and how many people grew from that home, and from the Tehillah. That they as a team, it can only be done as a team did, and how much he was open-minded to deal, as we stated, with people from every walk of life. And the impression she made was deep, real, because she was genuine. And as I'll also tell us, the Talmid by Ben, Yagav Torah, the person leads over children that are steeped in Torah, Ki'ilu lo meit, as if the person didn't die. How many people can claim to produce such a special family? Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, more. Steeped in Torah, people that are Talmidei Chacham, tremendous Talmidei Chacham, that are written, teachers of Torah, people that stand for Yiddishkeit, every walk of life of the family that she and her Klavan built is remarkable, real, and genuine. And it's all part of the teamwork that she and the Rav did, each with their distinctive personalities, being totally different, and at the same time being a team to create so much power and so much of the people, the community, leaves a legacy of Rosh Yeshiva said of Simchas HaChaim. You can only have Simchas HaChaim that's contagious if it's part and parcel of the inner self. It's well known in America that there are comedians that are great at saying lines, and they make people laugh, and they're miserable people. And after they finish telling their jokes, the people go back to the same unhappiness that they walked in with. But when you're connected to a person whose inner happiness was contagious and was real, then you saw how it affected people. We had this discuss after the Rav retired, for the Clavans to be in our house for a Yom Kippur for over a dozen years. And our children, she became Bubby Klavan. And all the people that came by, from family and others, over the Yom Tov, always taken by her. How real she was and connected. She was a consummate connector. She knew how to talk each person, as Yeshiva mentioned. And to our children, to our family, extended people that we had the slip to have them, something that we always cherish. Her husband, her father-in-law, their Kesher Tower Yeshiva was way back in the beginning. And her father-in-law came to say Shurim in the Yeshiva when Yeshiva was out of town. And the helpfulness that he had as a child, I can remember way before I knew any of the Klavan children, was often my father's Baruch was on the phone with his good chaver for 60 or 70 years. Rabbi Klavan's Baruch. When he davened the yeshiva, we saw the yeshiva bacher again with the same intensity that it must have been as a bacher, if I didn't know the way he davened. His connection to the yeshiva from Baruch and to the yeshiva and to the rabbeim was all part of continuing the great legacy of his father and his rabbeim to imbue this community together with the Rebbetzin. Now that the Rebbetzin is gone, the Rav is gone as well in a certain way. And our tefillah is that because they were such real people, such giving people, such genuine people, that the success that they had, which you see manifested in the success of children and grandchildren, the daily Torah that she was able to, it's so special to stand when you come to the Kisi covered, as we said, it's like the Machron, she comes with a full petal of my Titan, of using the unique personality that she had, service of her family, probably through a not good service or a kind.
I think that's goes what?
Come together to remember Nisha Kashuba, who personified the distinctive qualities of Klal Yisrael. Joining the Klavan family, I was so taken with this modest wife and mother whose entire life revolved around devotion and caring for husband and mishpacha. Her parents, the Jarreys, were successful business people who appreciated the value of hard-earned material success. Yet she was more than satisfied to marry a Bli Kodesh and live a life of utter simplicity and communal responsibilities. At one point in her youth, she had dated a jet setter who was ambitious and clearly going places, and who in fact went on to become a household name as one of the great Gevirim in Klal Yisrael. But she remembered this past opportunity with humor, complete satisfaction in having made her choice to eschew this type of worldliness and material opportunity, a life of value and giving to others. It was a running family joke. Although she was half Hungarian, her dining room not only was missing a chandelier, it had no decorative fixture, but a simple glass cover over bowls like many of our studies' bedrooms, and the matter was totally meaningless to her. But by cats, you and Mrs. Cortell were wise to have the Rebbitzin teach speech to your seniors despite her advanced age, and thus enabled their exposure to someone of unusual class, wisdom, and poise. But if only they could have seen her 16th Street kitchen that was approximately 2 feet by 4 feet of workspace, besides a small table and booth, but with her never expressing wistfully wishes for more. And yet how many guests and Shalachim and how many family members left that barest excuse for a kitchen and the adjoining dining room satiated with plentiful food and treatment so extraordinarily fine by someone who could write volumes about the hows of hospitality and how to treat people. No wonder she was probably Zeicha to dozens of, she was proudly Zeicha to dozens of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren whose values stand out as reflecting pure giving, sharing, caring, sacrificing for others. My generation grew up hearing a term from the news, demilitarized zone. Craven home was the essence of the dematerialized zone. I and my wife and family were greatest beneficiaries of her and Zadie's modest ways in generosity and giving, especially in our early years when our financial situation was most challenging. Our in-laws kept giving large and small. But more important than the giving was the modesty, never ever with any strings attached, never with looking for even scant recognition, never with any attitude or advice or mussar. That part of the giving always set them apart from others. This quality of living with an outlook for helping others was learned by my mother-in-law as a child in the Jarrett home. Wasn't it Bubby Jarrett who would surreptitiously slip anonymous cash under the tenant's door to help with symptoms they could not afford? Was it not the Jarretts who supported so generously and consistently the local Rav, who buried tzedakahs? And was it possibly a mere coincidence that this second family, at that point not boasting the unusual Hamidei Chachamim, but were nevertheless given the Zechus min Hashemayim that the young, later to become world famous Rav Leib Malin and Rav Abba Berman, Zechronim Levracha, were nursed back to health from their dysentery by the Jarretts in their home. My mother-in-law indeed learned at home and together with Aunt Barbara and Uncle Michael, beloved Uncle Michael, the meaning of golden hearts that deeply revere Torah life and values and Torah personalities. Reverend Klavan's recent students were not the first ones to relish her fun-loving, smart, gracious, and spunky manner. Seeing even younger men, as the Rosh Yeshiva mentioned, come to learn with her on Shabbos is so telling of how colorful and wise and personable she was. Young and old were always so personally proud to boast any type of association with Rebbetzin Klavan. In my mind, our PTA meeting with First Lady Mrs. Jimmy Carter about Amy's progress when she was a public school teacher must have been a study in the meeting of Southern grace with Torah-influenced personal fame. My mother-in-law looked after her husband with old-fashioned Torah-based respect as leader and guide in family life. While she revered him, she was also his most intuitive, perceptive, shrewd in positive sense, and eloquent support in all that he undertook, and how she loved telling the stories and highlighted her diplomacy on his behalf as well, which most of us now can repeat verbatim. She gave her family all a family could desire in opportunity, in material aid, in moral support. It was amazing to observe how someone at her advanced age could remember the names of each of her tens of great-grandchildren in Yergul behind her without a split second of hesitation. They and we, even her non-Jewish adoring neighbors, were beneficiaries of her truly unique appreciation, sensitivity, and respect for every human being. Kindness, friendliness, or warmth, or sensitivity, or incomparable grace, of incredibly charitable ways, and her truly unique charm all combined to make her a true original. She will be so sorely missed. Maybe she was Everything they said was true. Everything they said was true. And that body of information creates a responsibility and a legacy to the family. I look around the room and I see so many people gathered to give cover to Myrna. What's most striking to me is the number of grandchildren that came in from everywhere to be here because they had to, because they wanted to. So my short remarks are directed towards them. And I'll let you all listen. Because Amy was a giant among mortals. And it was easy for people to view the family and not notice the important contribution of raising the children. My buddy. Many characteristics were spoken about this, but it comes from a particular source. We started with a lie by repeating Isha's line. And there is a pause in Mishlei as to one Isha's line that I strongly suggest to all the grandchildren every Friday night. When you sing that song and you say that pasuk, you remember. It's a pasuk that remembering because it seems to say things that are not amazingly praiseworthy. It's everybody in this room. It's all house. Kappa person, she spread out her palm to or extends her hand to the destitute. That's getting tzedakah. That's the Mishnah. That's the ways that we are raised on. A deeper understanding of the pasuk is the secret. And it's the secret of how Bubby earned all the praise shared by all the previous speakers. There is a difference between an Ani and an Evion. An Evion is worse off than an Ani. And therefore, it demands a different response. Kappa parson and Ani, your hand is over here. But to Evion, you need to be more active. You extend yourself. Bobby's ability to deal with the spectrum of people, to make an impression on everybody, was based on selflessness. It was about the receiver. It wasn't about the giver. And when you make it about the receiver, you can deal with all kinds of people. What limits most people in their engagement with others is their limitations. But if it's not about you, it's about them, then you can do it. Bobby's children absorbed that by osmosis, by living in that house. They couldn't not see it. Grandchildren have to notice it. To embrace it,
They have to integrate it. They have to make it part of their nature. Now, these children have done this. Malka and her work with seniors, and my wife Rachel, and her work as a guidance counselor and a support. Hadassah as a medicine, and as a speech therapist, and Yosh as a effective and understanding us. It's never about that. It's back to see. That's what loving is. I love each of the grandchildren. Take that legacy and appreciate the standards of loving in live by. Machines, they email us yet, all of us, for the community that they live, that love, control of us.
That Yeshua played.
I'm going to begin a little unconventionally by starting with Hakar Satov, because I'm not sure that by the end of my words, I'll be able to convey them appropriately. I want to thank the community, the Rabbanim, the Silver Spring community, the Greater Washington community, and all the Rabbanim, specifically for the way that they treated my mother after the year of my father. Not that she didn't deserve the respect, and not that she wasn't worthy of it, but it was given in a way that gave her true life and death. 1006 Lamberton Avenue was a place that was living and vibrant because the community was willing to embrace it, and she was willing to embrace them. So I wanted to thank, I personally have to thank Paul Glasshopper, who's been my mother's agent for a very long time, but helped us out in the most critical time yesterday. When I heard the dire news, I happened to be with him, and he went out of his way, without question, to take me to the home where we heard the unfortunate news, but not only that, to stay there, say the film, be there until they could appropriately move my mother, and to follow her to the funeral home and where there would be the appropriate shmirah for her until this time. Additionally, I want to thank my siblings, my sisters. It's far away. Can't be them. But they were. They were. Each in their own right. With Sister Malka, always encouraging, always being there, getting my mother, making sure that my mother had what she needed. In the last number of weeks since the fall, my sister dropped everything, making sure that everything could, to whatever extent, could be taken care of. And Hadassah as well. The minute that there was a fall, Hadassah drove the hours, and she was there. She was always there. She was always with my mother, because my mother always felt she was there. I wanted to thank them. Thank them, brethren. Interestingly, in the last number of weeks since my mother had a fall, there were caregivers that needed to be engaged in order to help her. It was a hashgacha pratis that we were able to find them so quickly, and I wanted to thank them. I won't thank them by name, I never met them, but they know who they are. She appreciated your help. She needed the help.
and it was received with love, and she gave back with love as well. I wanted to thank, lastly, my Uncle Michael, who, I don't know how many years it's been there every Shabbos with my mother. Not every Shabbos, giving her, being there, being her right hand, being there for her, and being there for a time of need. Uncle Michael, we have that special place, and we just wanted to thank you. The bonds of love from childhood, they don't part. They just grow stronger and stronger. I wanted to ask I didn't treat her respectfully, or she was not treated respectfully, but it was interestingly, I'll be honest with you, she said that my mother had her faculty till the last moment. I spoke with her within the hour before the incident, and she was able to tell me exactly where to find certain things that she needed. It was without question that she had her faculties about her. She had them about her so much that when she entered the hospital, she called me and she told me, oh, I told the doctor that she asked me, what do I do? So she told me in the last number of years, I've been teaching speech. So she said, okay, sit down. I'll give you a speech lesson. And on the spot, she did. And all of my mother's students know that what did my mother say? My mother said, prepare note cards. I tried, Mom, but there were too many. I didn't know what to do with them. I needed you to help me. So I'm so sorry if I don't appropriately say what's needed to be said, but everybody before has expressed exactly what was needed. We are here to give the cover, and if I forgot, then please forgive me. This is that of intent. We are here to give the covered offering to my dear mother, I was here for what I thought was a 2-day visit. Hashem had other plans. As I was preparing, I was awestruck by the roles my mother filled and lived. Daughter, sister, wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, friend, teacher, and as many knew her and called her Rebbetzin. She was all of them at once, yet she excelled at them each individually. She used her unique ability of communication, combined with dignity, devotion, and dedication, to express her love for and live those roles to the fullest. My mother always seemed to know what she wanted. She would set her sights on the goal and went for it, even though she did not always know where the outcome would take her. She always knew she wanted to marry my father, but could not foresee that as a newlywed at the age of 19, she would become a Rebbetzin when my father was asked to take his father's rabbinic position here in Washington, D.C., when my grandfather passed away immediately after their wedding. Besides the big move from New York to D.C., the congregants were significantly older, and yet she set out to win them over, being constantly involved with them, the sisterhood, and the Schultz family in all functions. She always was a staunch advocate for my father. She was not fazed when she was called upon to host prominent rabbanim, shluchei mitzvah, to prepare and serve them meals while they were in town. It seemed like a daily event. She served them with grace, without fanfare, having experienced and witnessing those midos of chesed without fanfare, and covered rabbanim in the home of her parents, Aleichem Shalom. My mom knew what she wanted, but she never let it compromise her primary roles. She made it abundantly clear she was our mother first. Even though she wanted to earn a higher degree, she chose not to pursue one until it would not conflict with her being a mother. When we were all of school age, when we entered school, she went to school, but she insisted and was always there to pick me up at the end of my school day. Eventually, I believe she earned a BA in English and a master's in communication. She always seemed to find those most interesting jobs, or she made them interesting. She was a teacher par excellence. Just over 40 years ago, we saw what type of daughter she was. Her mother, Alasha, had a debilitating stroke while living in Eretz Yisrael. She and her sister Barbara dropped everything to be by her side, and truly by a miracle, were able to transport her back to the States. For approximately 13 years, she, my aunt, and uncle would rotate, having my grandmother and her caregivers live with them. When Bubby was in our home, we witnessed how our mother cared for her. There was no night or day. All that she was concerned about is that Bubby should experience as much of life as possible. She seemed to take her everywhere, but was most concerned that she'd experience a beautiful Shabbos and Yom Tov. My father, Zal, was right at her side. My mother was blessed with many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She even had discussed of becoming a great Bubby this year. She wore the title Bubby with distinction. She seemed to know what was going on with each and every one of them. She had a way of connecting with each and every one, and they wanted to connect with her. Sometimes if you wrote Bubby, you would get $1 or maybe more in the mail, but a response you would get. She would listen to them, encourage them, and they loved her back. My mom loved people. They loved her back. She could talk to anyone, from child to adult, from housekeeper to Rosh Yeshiva, connecting to each on their level. She was privileged to have many friends because she knew how to be a friend. Her word was her word, and if she said she would do something, she would follow through. But mostly, she took time to connect. She knew how to listen and had the patience to do so. Although my mom was her own person, as everyone has said, she was uniquely my father's wife. Love, dedication, and devotion during his lifetime, and even after our unparalleled, and even after his patira, unparalleled in my eyes. On Simchas Torah night in Old Shalom Talmud Torah, when my father seemed to carry the Yom Tov on his shoulders, his dancing was fervent, and his clothes would become sweated through. She always made sure that he would have a change of clothes in his office so he shouldn't have to walk home that way. She supported him in the trials and tribulations of the rabbinate and was his biggest fan and critic. She truly kept him alive in the last couple of years of his life, seemingly by will alone. Even after my father's patira, my mother did whatever she could do with Yuli Mishpach. She taught that she would not accept pay. She did it as a zchut for him, and she said to him, as she said to move him a rung up in Shamayim. She told my wife just recently that when she goes up to Shamayim, even if my father is in a higher place, she hoped he would stretch out his hand and lift her up. That is what she did for him all of her life. My mother was put into a role and mastered it with grace and regalness.
So he felt white.
You'll forgive me and indulge me after some of you words were said. I'd like to just to say goodbye, but we left to say goodbye. It was so sad. That you would give life. everything had to be without fanfare. Having attention. You didn't even go a few minutes to tell them you want to be listened. So quickly, we didn't have a chance. You ran away from probably your entire life. Your selflessness didn't allow anybody any discussion about yourself. You sharply reflected any attention for yourself. Probably today, the color part of you. Just for a short while, we have to talk about it. Yesterday, we were in the shopping news. Like I saw I like my child and pet for my life. I felt like it was slipping away. The grandmother said, "This is goodbye to Bobby. It's goodbye to the lady." Then after talking and losing with my siblings, my children, I realized that probably there's so much that you were giving us. There's so much that you gave us. It became part of us, not just part of your grandchildren. Your great-grandchildren had such, all of them had such a special, unique opportunity to have shyness with you, or close shyness with you. They all remember the same aspects, the same qualities that meant so much to your children, that meant so much to us. Great-grandchildren saw the same qualities. And I realized there wasn't goodbye. The legacy we still have with us, as long as Chopsy's dead, as long as we're willing to continue that legacy. Yesterday in Lakewood, my brother-in-law, who came to this Fabusi, mentioned to him, his grandmother was with Ferris. And Fabusi on the way home, happened to pick up a fellow and gave him a ride home. And he asked him where he's from. He said, "From Silver Spring." It's funny, I was just talking about a lady from Silver Spring, was a slave Reverend Klavan. You say Reverend Klavan? Reverend Klavan was the legend of Silver Spring. Legends leave all the legacies. Like we didn't talk about what I feel like the legacies, almost all of them mentioned already, but just what we saw as grandchildren, what I feel we can carry on. Number one, life was dedicated unswervingly to her priorities. The life that they chose together, that she and her Dave chose together, was a life that she lived without moving the budget and an iota. And nothing could change her decisions, nothing could change what she felt was important. Luxury meant nothing to her. If she had what she needed, that's all that she needed. You know, she mentioned, she talked for the last number of years, she wasn't interested in a salary. She didn't need the money. Why should we take a salary? Let rent be as associated to the meeting. Selfless Achayim, as was mentioned. I don't think any of us can forget what it meant to spend Shabbos with Bubby. What it meant to spend Saturday up to the Bubby. What it meant to sit on her booth, have breakfast with Bubby, because you were Bubby alone. Bubby's superstar casserole. Bobby's meatloaf. This meant so much to her because this was her essence. Her essence wasn't her positions. Her essence wasn't what she gave to other people. Her essence was what she was for her family. The covenant dignity that she gave people. First and foremost, like was mentioned, to Zadie. She was fierce as anything when it came to demanding respect for Zadie. There was no such thing as Zadie taking out the garbage. There was no such thing as Zadie collecting food for himself at dinner. They probably always made sure that Zadie had it because Zadie was the Rav. Didn't pass for a Rav. And she gave that over throughout his lifetime and even after his lifetime. There was no such thing as sitting, when it came to visit, there was no such thing as sitting anywhere near Zadie's seat. Covered for all Rabbanim, for all Talmidei Chachamim. It was incredible. The Rosh Yeshiva Rabbanim in Silver Spring, after Zadie was nifter, the purest possible dedication that she had for all of them, always asking, what should I be doing now? What's the right thing to do? What would my husband have done? What's the proper thing in this situation? She drove around, she told me many times that she drove around with Moshe Aaron Sir was the Mashgiach of Commerce, that used to come to America to raise money. She drove around Washington to raise money. She drove from Washington to Baltimore. She spent many hours of her time to make sure that he was successful. Because yesterday I heard a story about her. It seemed to have been some type of meeting, about a Rabbana meeting. I believe it was after the day was the third. She said for some reason she was sitting in on the meeting, and someone addressed one of the senior Rabbanim, his first name, Rav Pliny. Rabbi leaned over into his ear. This town around here, we don't say Rav Pliny, it's Rabbi. The covenant dignity that she gave to children and grandchildren. The shaykhs, the warm shaykhs that she had with each and every grandchild, and each and every great-grandchild, was only the manifestation, and only because she had true respect and true understanding of what we were all about. She made you feel so important. A young child, my children was able to learn with her, many of her great-grandchildren was able to learn with her over the phone. And I can tell you it was the highlight of their day because they got the attention, they got the self-esteem, they felt like they were something, that she knew how to make someone feel like something. Her students in public school, I'll never forget, the children she used to bring home, college children, we'd never be on the follow, she'd bring them home, if they were students or she was tutoring them, and she'd bring them home and sit them down with a couple cookies and a glass of milk, and you saw that the child succeeded only because it was first time in their life that someone believed in it. But she'd walk in the streets of Washington, D.C. on a Shabbos or Yom Tov, she'd say hello to every neighbor, no matter who they were, where they came from, Jewish, not Jewish. And she didn't do it as a Kiddush Hashem. She didn't do it because she wanted to make her mark. She did it because she saw a Ben Adam, she saw Tselem Elokim. And Tselem Elokim was worthy of recognition and worthy of dignity. That's how she treated everybody. I don't know how many thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times we would hear somebody say, please God, I would be. And when she said, please God, she meant, please God. She would say, always, we should live to be well, because if we're not well, then we won't be able to be there. And if we don't live, we definitely won't be able to be there. And she meant it as it's feel. Every time she said it was in feel, it was real death. The simplicity. But real death, it was real. Most recent years, her mission, I believe it became one of the most important mission was the Zehiros and Shmiras HaLashon, and bringing that Zehiros to countless ladies in the community, ladies who some of them had almost no shaykhs to any Torah Yiddishkeit, but they joined her groups, and this became her mantra. Everyone knew if Myrna Klavan walked into the room, all negative talk had to stop. There was no such thing. She even asked my Yaakov Moshe one time on the phone, in learning Shmiras HaLashon, and she said to him, your friends talk Lashon Hara. She was so surprised that there would be such a thing, that a boy was serious and eligible to talk Lashon Hara. She believed she couldn't imagine such a thing. And as mentioned, the greatest legacy she probably left us. We all knew Bobby so well. She had so much fun. She had so much personality, so many talents, so many qualities, and was so independent. And yet, when it came to Zaidi, it was Buffalo Daita. There was no other thought that Zaidi wanted. That's the way it was. At the end of her life, she had other communities she was living in, and she loved the communities. But Zaidi wanted to live near the yeshiva, and she gave up everything so that Zaidi could be near the yeshiva. And what gave him his life? Just want to close with the God that Zaidi used to say, that from a few times, Malach, Yaakov, the Malach at the end of the Milchama turned to Yaakov and he said, Shalcheni ki olah shachar, it's time for me to go, I have to go sing Shira. Yaakov said, Lo yashalech papi be'er, come. I can't send you away until you give me rough. But people were still ready to send you away. Look at the bracha that you have. Look at the children you have. The grandchildren, the great-grandchildren who came to this alive, who all felt such a closeness to you. Be able to be sorry for all your grandchildren who need foods and yeshuvas. And it's one last thing, Bobby. I believe you're leaving with one place, with one day. I promise my children, and any other great grandchildren after the son, be back to yourself and you start to learn how to get over the phone. They'll share solution, Bobby. You will say you're at home from where you are. Next to the piece of coffee together with a baby. And we'll say afternoon. Then really this wants up. He just wants us to be terrified.
The judge take this thing.
I don't know what to say. I don't know if I can say anything. Yeah. Okay, your son. There's no way that he's not ready up in Shemaim and reaching down to grandfather to bring it up. My feeling is that there's no way the baby is not right here. I feel like I'm being lost between the comments. There's no part of Bobby that wasn't there. This action devotion came from devotion. Being able to keep up being with parents. Great into her marriage. Not one saying that, oh, we didn't have that. Not one conversation. I ended up with Bobby, but I left Bobby. That day didn't come up. But I was always, I'm good. But it wasn't better day would be. It wasn't better day would be. That's what she did for me. That was her simple kind. And Jenny, for sure, you're bringing up company sitting next to Bobby and bringing up there where she belongs. Sitting next to I just made up this Amos 3 weeks ago. I visited before. And the last picture that I took was his on the couch. It's a saving of mine. I only spoke to her once after I left. I could actually tell, I don't know what lots about whether I could call her or not. I spoke to her this week. They called me. He probably it's crazy time in the house. I feel bad. I'll call her back. I'll call her back. Half an hour later, it wasn't as time it was short. Some doctor came in. I did talk about one last time. I don't remember anything she said. Everything was fine, but my mother just told me that every day, Bobby used to ask, how's Ben Archer? How's Ben St. Louis? Everybody was always on his mind. Anybody she ever spoke to, she always asked, his child, his grandchild. I'm one of the younger grandchildren. So I only really know, I only knew Bobby. She was about 10 years younger than Liddy, but I only knew her when she was already at her older stage. I don't remember much of Washington. I don't remember a little only, mainly through restraint. But that didn't stop us from having a connection. She still, we were able to connect, even though she was older. And it did help that I had the same birthday as a lady, that we were to have that connection. Have us, help us, be on the same page. We were able to talk, to reconnected. I was late for the call every single week for years. On Fridays. Every Friday. It's right, I don't get to talk to them, I'm not able to call it. I'm not gonna say I don't know. I'm gonna say my goodbye. I'm gonna walk you out. I'm gonna bring you a piece of that phone. Everybody welcome to the lobby. Especially now. After years, past couple of years. Everybody able went to the lobby. Come have pizza. Come sit on the sukkah, the tabernacle. Come sit on the sukkah. Last time I was there, with my family, with Esther. We went early in the morning. She called the venue before it opened. I had me to answer the phone. Like, here, a typical Bobby. Not that people then even knew who I was. Like, hi, my grandson Myrna's here. He's gonna come to someone. Give him my charge card. He'll get whatever he wants. Just bring it back. What did you feel like the door open here? I went and got pizza. I came back. Everybody came to the Bobby. Got pizza. Got everything. Even all the grandchildren. Got the little gadgets, bracelets, the puppies, little toys. Even mixers from who knows where secondhand store. I just threw one out in the cities. It's a hard time. It's bittersweet. It's so sad to see Bobby go. On the other hand, I'm so happy that she's able to now reconnect with me. I'm such shit. Her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
Happy playing.
Bobby's name was a Hula Lipa. Bobby's name was a Hula Lipa. Hula means beloved. It really was. She truly was beloved to us, beloved to the community, beloved to everybody she knew. I think she personified the Smita. Anyone she met, anyone she crossed paths with, I just mentioned, but every single time you were with her, there was a story, there was somebody. She walked into the grocery store, you knew it was going to be a story. You knew there was somebody she was going to notice. You didn't even see was sitting there, the security guard. She saw people. We were in Eretz Yisrael. and she ordered a taxi to come and she wasn't ready. And most places in Eretz Yisrael, the nature is people are honking outside, they're upset. Bubby went out and said, why don't you come inside? And in her own special way, she invited them for a cinnamon bun. I don't think anybody else could possibly do that. So, our Bubby. She had a way to connect with both young and old. Didn't make a difference, your age, everything. I used to think that I'm the only Avi. I'm named after her father, but she found that connection with each and every person, every child, every grandchild. She was able to connect to them, and I called my siblings, and they all spoke about the tremendous love that they felt. You know, we would call, as Ben just mentioned, I would call as well every Friday. And you know, you call your grandparents because you have to wish them a good Shabbos, because you have to stay connected. But there was so much Ava, there's so much love that she gave us that's missing in that call. She truly, truly cared about every little thing that was going on in your life, and it bothered her. She cared about in every person she followed the little things that went on with them. She kept us together. She was the source of information for the entire family. I remember when I went to sleepaway camp for the first time, and I came for a Shabbos. I stayed in their home, and already she decided she's going to send me letters. She wrote me a letter every day, and she started writing the letters before I left her house, even, so that the first day I got to camp, I would have a letter. That was her thought. She used all of everything she had, all of her talents, all of her possessions, all of her time to help other people. And she's going to be struck. She told me that just this past week she started college, and Bubby was helping her with her essays, and again she was in the hospital, and she didn't want to inconvenience Bubby and call her, but Bubby called, and in all her pain in the hospital, she said, we have to start. Where are you on the essay? We have to start. And she still had more time, and the time that she had was precious, and it was used for others. It was there to help others. So just hope there should be a bit of future for the family. We could see you following hers and Davey's ways.
Just before concluding, if I could just add one very quick thing. I really speak on my own behalf, and I suspect on behalf of many in the Silver Spring community. As has been said by so many, Reverend Klavan was so welcoming and so open and so down to earth. Surely I didn't always treat her with the appropriate kavod. Surely I was enticed by her warmth and didn't always treat her with the appropriate kavod. I suspect I'm not the only one. And on behalf of everyone, we thank her so much for her tremendous work, her tremendous friendship. We'll certainly ask Mechila. Please rise for Kamala. Olei Rachamim, Shochein, Bamiromim, Hamtzeinu Kolchona, Kanfei Ashkina, B'malos Kedoshim Utorim, Kizor Harakia Masibim Et Nishmas, Ahuva Liba Bat Abraham Alevi, Shochal Yolama, Vavur Sharach Misfalulim, Yaras Paras Nishmasa, Bigan Eden, Tehiminu Pasa, Lachem Balarachmim Yaspireha, Stay there, Knafav Yolamim, Yitzror, Torah Hayimes Nishmasa, Adam Nainach Lata, Sanuach Bishalom Al Mishkava, Vinomar, Amen. I thank Reverend Mulkowski, only because we're just that I'm standing here right now. Thank of course Reverend Mulkowski and the OH Shalom Shul for giving us this opportunity to have this very important gathering here. In a few moments, we'll escort the Paris outside. Ura will be in Eretz Israel, in Eretz Chaim Cemetery in Beit Shemesh, approximately Sunday evening. David Jarre will be beginning Shiva at the Klavan home in Silver Spring this afternoon. Mrs. Wein and Mrs. Weinberger will both be going home for Shabbos, returning to Silver Spring for Shiva Sunday, B'ez Hashem. Mrs. Taserstein and Rabbi Klavan will be going to Eretz Israel for the Kura and then coming back to Silver Spring. If the grandsons would please come forward to carry out.
Going on my old flip phone. That's actually been working with your wife. Yeah. Not the greatest quality, but still, I every single thing.